I've just deployed attack mode, so I've now got 20% more power. Hello and welcome to Fully Charged. Today's an important moment because today I'm getting to drive a car I've been trying to drive for a couple of years now. And I actually got into electric cars through EV motorsport, believe it or not, back in the early 2000s, watching electric dragsters being made in the States. Since all that time though, I've built my own drag car and something called Formula E came along. And as a consequence, I'm now driving this, the Jaguar I-PACE eTROPHY, in its finished form. And this is actually the very first car. This is the car that they developed the entire race series around. So Mark, you're the new series manager for the I-PACE eTROPHY.
Yes, yeah.
It's quite a, I mean, one make series are nothing new, but this is pretty unique in that it's all electric, road car based, quite a real world series in many ways because it's not radically different from the car you can buy.
Absolutely. Customer racing and road-based cars doing customer racing is nothing new, but this car is certainly something new. It's the first electric vehicle production-based technology to be doing an international series, and so much of this car is based on the road car as well. So it uses the road battery, the road inverters, road motors. They take away a lot of the luxury that Jaguar normally comes with to remove a lot of the weight, but in essence this is very much a road car.
You have not long been in the job, I know, and we're about to start season 2. What are the big differences from the previous season? I suppose get people up to speed with what they've missed, but what are the big changes that are possibly going to make it even better?
One of the great things that's just been done is to involve attack mode, from inspired by Formula E.
It's going to ask about attack mode.
Yeah, we're really excited about attack mode. It's going to give quite a lot of more strategic options for the drivers. So based on a very similar way to Formula E do it, the drivers are going to have to arm their system and then drive over some loops in the circuit. These are generally well offline. Yeah. So you arm the system, you drive offline, and as soon as you've activated that attack mode, the car is going to unleash an extra 20% of power and torque for a fixed duration. Now, here we've been playing with 2 minutes of extra duration, so the guys have had it to play with here at Bedford, and yeah, they've been reporting it really does change the way that you come into corners, the places that you brake, and then even the regen for the car, because the car is putting energy back into its batteries every time you're braking, and that is all affected by the extra torque, the extra power, and how that comes into the driving.
So is attack mode mandatory for every driver for every race?
For the races, yes. We will be mandating the number of times they need to use it, because you do sometimes need to go so far offline. Sometimes there is a penalty to actually taking it, and then you win back and then some with the application. Other races there's not so much of a penalty. Qualifying we won't have attack mode, because that would effectively just restrict you to the number of laps that you had that attack mode initiated or activated. But no, yeah, we'll be mandatory in the races, but the drivers won't know how many activations and how long those activations will be until very close to the race. So they're not going to be able to strategically think for weeks beforehand how I'm going to plan my strategy for my attack mode. Right. It's going to be much closer to the event. Yeah. Little curveball to throw there with a few days leading up to the event.
So we've got 10 races coming up?
Yeah, 10 races across 8 cities. So we're doing a double header in Saudi Arabia at the first one, and then looking forward to a double header in London at the Excel Centre for our season finale. So again, with the wonders of electric vehicles, we're going inside the Excel Centre, outside around some of the Dockland roads.
Well, you'll go in?
Well, yeah, we go up a ramp. The pit lane is actually inside the Excel Centre itself, so that's going to be amazing for the fans to get really close to the pit lane for the Formula E. And yeah, our paddock area is inside the building as well. So yeah, definitely you cannot do that with any legacy technologies. That is pure electric vehicle stuff.
And I've seen some of the other cities, Paris, I mean, Paris is the king of congestion. to be able to put a race on, you know, that's zero emission is amazing.
It is absolutely for me, Paris is the embodiment of the whole philosophy when Formula E wanted to go racing in city centres, to be driving literally with the Eiffel Tower in view around one of Paris's most iconic buildings, but without upsetting the local residents, because you're racing and it's quiet. It doesn't help. It doesn't pollute their streets. It's a little bit more congestion, but that is absolutely a fantastic event.
He's going to come out of the final corner and stamp his authority all over the Jaguar I-PACE eTROPHY series.
Presumably this was your first experience of driving an electric race car, was it?
Electric race and on the streets.
Oh, really?
So yeah, my first time in the electric car was in the race car.
Okay. At all?
That's all.
Oh wow. Okay.
It was the first time. It was Silverstone last year.
Yeah.
I think September 18.
Yeah.
And it was very strange because first time in the car, the guy said, "Okay, turn on the car." Okay, you press the button.
Bang.
Bang. No noise at all.
Don't need to warm the engine up.
Nothing. And this was very strange for us. And then we could understanding that how we drive by sound.
Yes.
And this car we have no sound, so you need to adapt to the style for driving like that.
How do you do that? Because I was going to say, you don't have any rev counters, there's no gears.
Nothing.
You have regen braking, of course.
Yes. This helped a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, we can change a little bit inside the car. You can play with the steering wheel, with the ABS.
You can do that.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, driving, and you can change the regen on or off.
Yeah.
This make big difference in the braking. Some parts is good, some parts is not, but help a lot. And yeah, you can play also with the power, put more forward or rear. So this is kind of three things we can change.
The other thing, I mean, obviously Formula E is an amazing idea, given that you can race in places you wouldn't normally be able to race. But with these are big cars.
Yeah, it's big.
You know, when there's 10 of these on the track, there's not a lot of space.
No, it's very tight.
So what's the tactic? I mean, people love watching touring cars because there's a bit of argy-bargy, there's a bit of paint swapping. But seeing these on some of the street circuits, you wonder how do you even overtake?
Well, the tracks was made for Formula E, and we arrived in the 5th season of Formula E with this car, so the tracks are a bit narrow, some parts, only pass one car or 1.5 car. Yeah. And but anyway, we have space also to overtaking and things like that. But I think this is the challenge. You know, you be fast, but to be fast, you can't make a mistake.
No stranger to a quiet, quick car. I've got to get used to it. It's mostly about the braking and the weight. The throttle's very, very light. This is normally a 5-seat SUV that weighs some 2.3 tons. Not today. Brakes are very good, actually. Steering wheel's set very high up. Actually, I love the brakes. I love the brakes a lot. It comes off the production line in Austria, the same as all other I-PACEs. Most of them are destined for the road. This one isn't. It becomes a race car and it lives as a race car. It goes to special vehicle operations, which is Jaguar Land Rover's sort of skunk works for the hottest and most extreme vehicles, and then they start preparing it with M Sport, Malcolm Wilson's rally guys up in Cumbria, and they put the roll cage in, all that stuff. And then remember, this car has standard motors, front and back axle. It has the standard 90 kilowatt hour big battery pack that goes up in the belly and bolts in there. What's different is they've whipped a load of weight out of it. I mean, in there's nothing compared to the 5-seat original, luxurious, beautiful interior. There's none of that, it's all gone. Different dash, really flimsy race dash. very, very bare carbon fibre centre console, we developed with Cosworth. And then you go down here and you've got, look, not slicks, road tyres, Michelin Pilot Sport road tyres that are actually, you know, bearing in mind this is a race car, these are all weather tyres, so if it's wet you leave them on, if it's dry you leave them on, and tyres are really the most important part of this because it's, although it's had a good few hundred kilos removed out of it, and there's a lot of composites in here, different bumpers and splitters and stuff, it's still just over 2 tons, so it's a heavy race car and it's wide. In standard form it's 2.01 metres, wider than 2 metres the I-PACE. But the good thing about the I-PACE is the fact that although it's not the most efficient electric car in standard form, what it's really good at is going around corners and being sporty. And they call it an SUV, but it's not really an SUV, it's a decent 5-door hatch that you can rise up on air suspension if you so wish. Okay, I've just deployed attack mode, so I've now got 20% more power, okay, and it's given me a countdown of how much. So I'm reaching about 125 on this track. Oh, I love it when they start to finally learn a circuit and you can start going in a little bit harder. Oh, I like the throttle response is now much sharper on attack mode. I could get used to that. I'd like attack mode all the time. It's very hard actually to get the modulation I'm finding. This corner in particular is an absolute swine of a corner. I've gone in much, and that was it, I went in slower. So no, I'm doing about 140 kilometers an hour on this track. I'll tell you what though, it's the weight, it really is. I mean, even stripped out for a race car, it's still massively heavy. But I do love a relatable race car, and that's what this is, it's a relatable race car. A lot of the trick differences on this car compared to the road car is in the damping. It's got Öhlins, Swedish, very expensive, beautiful Öhlins adjustable damping, different springs, the car is lower. It's got AP Racing brakes, and again, brakes are so key, you've got to stop this damn thing. Because it's carrying a lot of mass, and as I've just found out going around the track, although the bulk of the weight's down here, when you go into a corner it feels nice and light and nimble, but when that weight starts to go and when the tyres start to break or you go into a corner too hot, suddenly it will really push you. So and I'm getting used to the four-wheel drive. You can play with the four-wheel drive, the bias of the torque, you can throw much more bias to the rear wheels, which is nicer, because then it just feels like you can oversteer a bit and bring it back in. But yeah, I mean, I think it looks really good as a race car. I've always thought it looked good as a race car. I'm going to use boost again. You get the blue light, attack mode deployed, and this is what's new for season 2. I really want to drive this and rub mirrors and doors with a bunch of other I-PACEs. That's so much nicer in attack mode. Let's just see, as a road car, the I-PACE always was good at going around corners. The I-PACE is a really good road car, but it's a sports electric road car, which means it's got wide tyres, wide track, so it's not the most efficient of electric cars. What I can't believe is, going around there, Bedford Autodrome is this big, wide open old airfield, and it just feels massive. And the outright sort of torque and acceleration of this car is not that impressive. What's impressive is hustling one of these around a tight circuit with a dozen other ones, and that's when it would get really freaky, I reckon. A car, I would love to be able to enter it in a race as a wild card.
Everyone's going to be needing to go electric in the future, and the guys who are involved in the Jaguar I-PACE eTROPHY and making those sponsored bridges now, they'll reap benefits in the future for sure, because it's It's coming for all racing. A lot of customer programs are now talking about hybrid. Hybrid's
been in Le Mans, for, endurance for a while.
It has, absolutely,
Yeah.
but it's not the future. Zero emissions is the future rather than hybrid technology, which is why Jaguar has embraced it so wholeheartedly. And yeah, it's where everyone's going to need to be in 10, 15 years' time.
Dear Jaguar I-PACE eTROPHY, I realise that there is a VIP invite only wildcard entrant in every race. Hello. I can only imagine what it's like driving that on a far narrower circuit than that, with a dozen other ones driven by very competitive people who are willing to sacrifice mirrors and wings. It must be a right hoot. And the thing is, it's still such a young series. It's only going to get faster, it's only going to get more progressive, and in turn it's only going to make those things better. And I suppose that's the point of all of this, isn't it? Thank you ever so much for watching Fully Charged. If you're a Patreon already and you pledge a bit of cash every month towards making of this show, thank you so much. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can pledge from as little as $2 a month to make these shows better, I guess. If you're a subscriber, thank you. If you're not, you must subscribe. Otherwise I'll be lightly annoyed. And I'm going to go home now because that one's not road legal, in my matching suit that I've borrowed. Bye-bye.